The New South Wales team of 6 includes 4 locals, Adele Bannerman, Cherie Burns, Dale Linnetson and Julie Swanson, with Joanna Wally a reserve. September will be a busy month as they tackle the Australian Individual, Foursomes and Interstate Series at the Newcastle and Steelworks golf clubs.
4 of us know the course pretty well, and then we've been having the state squads up here, so the other 2 have got to know the course, and then being in our hometown we'll feel a bit more comfortable.
Yes, we will have a bit of an advantage, like coming from Newcastle and being able to play here a fair bit, so hopefully it'll come through.
Both 19 and playing off 3, Bannerman and Burns have represented New South Wales before, while teammate and Newcastle and Hunter champion Julie Swanson from Raymond Terrace will make her debut.
I really don't know what to expect, but I'm hoping for the best.
Linnetson from Cessnock is no stranger when it comes to mixing with the better players of golf, as her job revolves around unearthing tomorrow's champions.
I'm working full-time at the moment as the administration manager for the Jack Newton Golf Academy, which is a commercial venture established at Riverside Oaks to try and assist aspiring young amateurs to become professional golfers.
With coach Malcolm Reilly rating Barnes just a 10% chance of playing due to an ankle injury, Grogan gets another opportunity in the top grade at the most important time of the year. His performance in reserve grade and bigger match experience getting him the nod over teenager Owen Craigie.
You know, on Grogan's current form and maybe Owen's inexperience at this level in an important game might be crucial.
The rest of the backline remains intact with just the one change in the pack. Tony Butterfield comes in to replace the injured Mark Lanville, with Darren Tracy moving back to lock. The Bears also have their fitness concerns, which the Knights are playing down. They're expecting nothing less than a committed North Sydney, whoever takes the field.
I just can't allow any complacency to creep in because I really don't want this season to finish on Friday.
Meantime, the Knights have confirmed the signing of Tess Rake, Lee Jackson and several other players, including another hooker and Newcastle West star Tony Hutton, to a 2-year deal.
38-year-old Rodney Keith Winters has been living in Ferriby Drive at Metford near Maitland for the last 7 years. It was 13 years ago police allege he murdered 23-year-old Cheryl Ann Trace after a disco at the Edinburgh RAF base in Adelaide. Winters was an airman at the base. The woman's family was devastated by the loss.
She was a real easygoing sort of person. She had plenty of friends and no hassles at all.
Detectives in Adelaide have worked with special DNA testing, checking hair and semen found on the murder scene.
The DNA technology was not available at the time of the murder, and in fact it's only quite recently that this type of technology has been tried and tested in the criminal courts.
The South Australian Police joined with Sydney detectives to work on the case after tracing Winters to Metford. 4 detectives arrived here late yesterday afternoon. They simply knocked on the door and Winters was arrested. Neighbours say Winters, his wife and 3 young boys are a nice and normal family. Before Singleton Local Court today, Winters was refused bail and remanded to appear in Adelaide Magistrates Court on Friday. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It was in the early hours of Christmas morning. The Star restaurant in King Street, Newcastle, was badly damaged by fire, which started when the lead singer of the band Freak Shop, Stephen McLennan, was performing a fire-breathing act, which he'd done 100 times before.
I blew out the fire as I normally do, and the roof actually just caught in a ball of flame.
Newcastle Court was told that up to 60 people were evacuated from the building. Many suffered severe smoke inhalation. The material which covered the ceiling of the restaurant in December was illegal. The inquiry heard it was similar to polystyrene. It was easily ignited and highly toxic when burning. Magistrate Reimer found the banned material was not noticed during 2 council inspections of the premises. He suggested Newcastle Council adopt measures to ensure stricter compliance with building codes and safety regulations. While he said the Fire Act was inherently dangerous, he made no recommendations to have it stopped, angering the parents of those injured in the fire.
Just a lot of grandstanding on the Act, and here we are, mothers holding our children over the toilet. While they're vomiting up smoke and you could smell the smoke through them, you know, for 24 hours.
They say the band has prospered from their children's pain by showing the fire scene on a CD. Singer Stephen McLennan admits the Fire Act is now the band's trademark, but says he can't help what has happened.
One particular venue we play in Sydney is organising special pyrotechnic shows around what we do.
West's Leagues Club's controversial foray into Super League has come to an end. At a special meeting earlier this month, 4,000 club members made it clear they didn't want Wests involved with the rebel league team, the Hunter Mariners. Last night, the board of Wests agreed to withdraw its 60% interest in the team.
We're a bit disappointed that we were challenged in the way we were. We've made a lot of decisions in the past. It's been good for the town and good for our club. But it's just another day in the life of your business.
Even though the board of Wests voted to withdraw from the game, the general manager of Super League, Julian Swinstead, says the Hunter Mariners will play next year.
Wests was simply an investor. That doesn't affect our plans in any way, shape or form.
Julian Swinstead says the Mariners will kick off in March next year.
We have a lot of people who are interested in the Mariners and we will pursue them.
Jeff McCloy, who has a financial interest in the franchise, agreed with Mr Swinstead's comments. As for West General Manager Bob Ferris, who was a driving force in securing the Mariners franchise for the club, he says it would be impossible for him to work for Wests and the Mariners, but wouldn't be drawn on his future.
I'm full-time employed by Western Suburbs Leagues Club. I work 60 hours a week as General Manager of West Leagues Club.
Jane Anderson, NBN News.
After an illustrious career with Canterbury, the Knights and Halifax, one of this region's most popular servants of the game has decided that Sunday will be his last match. At 31, Hagan has not missed a game through a football-related injury since 1984 and feels the time is right to make a graceful exit.
I've been very fortunate over a lot of years. However, I do have a game to play next Friday against some old-timers at Parramatta Stadium, so I've still got that one game up my sleeve. Probably go from the oldest player on Sunday to the youngest player next week, so certainly a change of fortune.
Deservedly, the chances are he will go out a winner. Last year's beaten grand finalists in first grade Wyong have qualified for all 4 grand finals at Graham Park, Gosford. Wyong will play the entrance in the first grade match and will start favourites after winning their most recent encounter.
The entrants are a very good side. I think we just got them in the major semi 22-14. They did have a win over Wyong in the second round, so and they've got some very good players, so it'll be a very tough game on Sunday.
Consisting of only small demountable classrooms when the first students enrolled 6 years ago, the campus at Ourimbah has grown substantially. Set on 80 hectares of bushland, the $27 million project is a joint venture between the University of Newcastle and the Hunter Institute of Technology. 1,300 students are studying a range of university, TAFE and adult education courses, including Bachelors of Arts, Business, Nursing and Teaching. The entrance to the campus's new library was the venue for today's opening ceremony, the official party including the Governor-General, Newcastle University Chancellor Rick Charlton and Federal Minister Michael Lee. The opening honours going to Bill Hayden. Mr Hayden is a long-term tertiary education student undertaking a number of husbandry TAFE courses in Canberra.
The concept of this campus very much reflects my own belief and experience. For me, education and learning have been lifelong undertakings, both formally and informally.
It's expected the Ourimbah campus will continue to grow, with the student population predicted to swell to 8,000 by the end of the decade. The split-up of Pacific Power is outlined in a report by Professor Fred Hilmer, who has been examining the future of the state facility since May. The report looked at how to structure the $8 billion power producer to become more competitive in the national electricity market. Treasurer Michael Egan says he is encouraging further debate on the future of Pacific Power before he takes a recommendation to Cabinet in 6 weeks. The report has 3 recommendations: restructure Pacific Power, reorganise the utility's 7 power stations into 2 or 3 competing groups, and set tough governing guidelines for the new corporations to ensure competition works under government ownership. The 2-group option would include Bayswater and Liddell power stations in the Upper Hunter and Vales Point, Iraring and Munmora near Newcastle, bracketed with Mount Piper and Wallerawang near Lithgow. Both operations would be bigger than any Victorian generator, with assets of around $3 billion for Bayswater Liddell and $5 billion for the others. The other option would be for Iraring, west of Lake Macquarie, to operate on its own or possibly linked with interstate generators. Pacific Power would lose its market dominance, but it was hoped the state would become more competitive at the introduction of the national power grid. The report did not say whether there would be job losses.
There are at least 500,000 nudists in Australia, a lifestyle claim to clear the mind and calm the nerves.
Once people take their clothes off, they seem to get rid of all the barriers and they're a lot more open, a lot more friendly to each other.
Today, one of Australia's first nudist resorts was opened at Anna Bay, north of Newcastle. All of the guests were fully clothed, the member for Port Stephens taking the official honours. Bob, why didn't you do this one in the nude?
Well, I don't think it's real good when you're nearly 50, you know. I'm really just a stick your hat on man.
The resort, with its accommodation and sporting facilities, cost $1.5 million to set up. The naked facts behind this project is that it's a big push for tourism. If the experience overseas is any gauge, the exposure of this resort should mean big dollars for the local economy. In the former Yugoslavia, 8 million tourists visited the country each year, a quarter of them nudists.
They had more nudists into their country than we had tourists into our country, all up. So that's the numbers over in Europe. It's quite amazing.
So if you feel like it's time to let it all hang out, this could be the place for you, helping Australia's unhealthy economy to a clothes-off recovery. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Yesterday's gruelling victory to Manly over the Sharks was just what the Knights were hoping for.
You know, I'd prefer maybe to come up against a Cronulla side that's been knocked about a bit.
Newcastle take on Cronulla this Saturday, with Grogan likely to be named in the centres again tomorrow. On Friday, he played in first grade's win over Norths, then was instrumental in reserves' victory yesterday, as was Bill Peaton. He's become the Knights' most versatile player in both grades.
Mate, I'm enjoying it. You know, first grade's obviously the place where everyone wants to play, but you know, to get a chance to play in reserve grade semi-finals, that's a great honour as well. You know.
He's a great player, Billy Pede, and he's a bit above this level, I'm afraid. He's a first grade footballer, but we're very happy to have him and use him off the bench.
The demonstration ran for kilometres. Bob Horne, one of 4 Hunter politicians, to join the protest. Mr Horne had with him a special Australian flag smothered in signatures.
I presented the flag to the mayor of Papeete, and I said to him, when you feel that you haven't got support, just open this flag up and have a look. There's 2,000 people from the Hunter Valley that support you.
It's estimated some 15,000 Tahitians watched the march. Politicians from 23 nations were represented, including one of Japan's most powerful men.
Mr Takamura, who's the Minister for Finance of Japan, biggest economy in the world, he was there, and he was accompanied by a group from Hiroshima.
Back home, Bob Horne says he believes such rallies do make a difference, despite President Chirac's determination to ignore the protests from the South Pacific. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It was an early morning wake-up call for the fire brigade and police. Smoke was seen pouring from the weatherboard building off High Street just after 6 o'clock. Scientific police believe the blaze was lit outside the building. It quickly took hold, severely damaging the structure, which was used to store plans and equipment belonging to Bridor Homes.
About $7,000 worth of plans, and plus the plotter, which is worth about $6,000. So it's all gone.
The fire also spread to the office of Hills Solicitors, which fronts High Street and neighbours Bridor Homes. Staff today sorted through boxes of records dating back 8 years, trying to salvage what they could.
We keep all of our security documents in a fireproof safe on another premises, so none of the client's important papers have been lost.
Police aren't sure whether an accelerant was used to light the fire, which they say was deliberately lit. This burnt clothing may help them catch the culprit. They believe it came from a nearby clothing bin.
At this stage it appears that some of that clothing has been burnt to some degree, and we'd just like to piece together the circumstances.
It's a long way from the Anglican Diocese of North Queensland to a parish luncheon in the Hunter Valley.
But according to Bishop Arthur Malcolm, it's nothing compared to the journey that Australia has yet to make to heal the rift between Aboriginal and white communities. He says churches of all denominations should be leading the way.
The churches throughout Australia today should be taking a front role or a walk in this reconciliation. And if we have that, we'll show the people that the church is right behind reconciliation, that I believe the whole community of Australia will change.
Australia's only full-blood Aboriginal bishop, Arthur Malcolm, has become a church figurehead for blacks of all faiths. His message, however, is aimed at an even wider audience.
You can't play a piano on the white chord by itself. You won't get no rhythm at all. You must have the black chord there to help to make the rhythm. And the same in life today. If we want reconciliation, then I believe that both sides have to make an effort to get on with it.
At the end of this week's tour of northern New South Wales, Bishop Malcolm heads overseas to an Indigenous Peoples Conference in Alaska.
A new breed of high-tech panel beaters aren't just armed with a hammer and spray gun, they've also got a video camera. The repair cam is a simple concept to cut down on time and getting insurance assessors to check the damage on a car.
People in the country will notice enormous improvements in service and time savings because they can be waiting anything up to 10 days for an assessor.
The video is shot, then channelled into a computer. The pictures are frozen and sent down the telephone line and picked up by the insurance assessor in his or her computer. It's a great saving in time, with the assessors able to stay in their office and decipher the damage. Some jobs are settled within an hour, and with the time saving it must also mean a cutback in assessors themselves. But will it mean cheaper insurance premiums?
I would certainly hope so, and I think that's one thing that insurance companies will certainly be looking at.
Samet's in Newcastle is trialling the repair cam. It's already used throughout Europe and America.
More than 30 people converged on the Wingham Courthouse Community Centre today to brainstorm ideas for bringing Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal communities closer together. Community Services Manager Maeve Richardson described it as the first meeting of its kind in the region, which has a huge need for reconciliation.
There's been a lot of segregated approaches, I suppose, or people working very hard in very many areas, and perhaps if we combine our resources we'll have far better results. We've got some very positive people here today.
The meeting saw the formation of a working group to prepare a strategy to improve black-white relations.
Any
decisions that are made that all minority groups like Koori people or any minority group at all has to be have some input into the decisions that affect us.
The group will launch an awareness campaign soon using a special kit put together by the national organisation Australians for Reconciliation. Oyster farmers in the Manning are among those whose livelihoods are at risk if acid sulphate soils are exposed, the disturbance producing sulphuric acid runoff with potentially disastrous results for aquatic life. The local Total Catchment Management Committee has formed a special committee to tackle the problem without government intervention.
It's a long time one, of course, and there's no simple answer to acid sulphate soils, but there are things that we feel that we can do, and I think primarily to educate the landowner.
Maps are now available, pinpointing high-risk areas where acid sulphate could be exposed. The committee's aim is to educate landowners on good management practices to increase productivity and improve water quality.
One of the things at the moment is to not to dig the drains so deep so as to expose the acid sulphate soil, and maybe to keep some salt water in the drainage union drain.
The committee's action plan will be outlined in a leaflet to be released to local landowners in coming weeks. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
It's been a familiar scene at electoral offices scattered across the region this week. Many report thousands of people are still unsure about where and how to vote, boundary changes and the ward system. The number of pre-poll votes has been higher than expected this year, Lake Macquarie recording more than 5,500, Newcastle only a few hundred less, and Maitland more than 2,000. Tomorrow's vote could result in major changes to some council lineups. Newcastle's Lord Mayor John McNaughton is stepping down, so too Cessnock's Mayor Marie Callaghan. Polling booths will open across the region from 8 o'clock tomorrow morning until 6 p.m. According to returning officers, by late tomorrow night, there should be a strong indication of voting trends for most councillor and mayoral positions. Melinda Smith, NBN News.